afternoon, everyone. My name is Don Parkinson, and I'm a senior consultation specialist with Atkins Realis. Today, we are continuing our series of live stream and radio topics on the Northern Road Link project as it moves through the provincial environmental assessment and federal impact assessment processes. The topics we are covering parallel our project activities, so we hope these will help our viewers and listeners get a better understanding of the project and provide input along the way. With me today is my usual co-host, Jennifer Ashawazage Pereira, my colleague and an Indigenous engagement and traditional knowledge specialist at Atkins Realis. Jennifer is a member of Henvey Inlet First Nation, located on the French River, south of Sudbury, and works with me on our projects across Canada. And also with me is Mr. Chris McKay, a member of Matagami First Nation with decades of experience working with and for Indigenous communities in many capacities. Welcome to both of you this fine early afternoon.
Good day.
Well, thank you, Don.
Anokajep, good morning.
Great to have everyone aboard here, and we got a great conversation coming up. And we have Mr. McKay as a special guest to bring his wisdom and clearly good looks with the sunglasses.
I'll stop, Don. I don't have a
Call you
choice,
Elvis,
Don.
or
I know you
can I
missed.
call you Elvis, or would you prefer Chris?
You may.
Today, we are going to talk about community perspectives using clips from an interview done just last week with a member of Martin Falls First Nation, Mr. Darren Spence. And we had a fantastic conversation, Jen and I, last week with Darren, who is a really interesting person with a lot to say about a wide variety of topics, and a lot of insight was provided. So we'll have a couple of shows from our chat with Darren. And just to remind everyone, the purpose of these discussions is to share community views and hear community voices on various topics relevant to the Northern Road Link environmental and impact assessment. So, without further ado, why don't we get started? I'll throw it over to you, Jen, and we'll run through the different clips and then have a roundtable discussion. And between you and Elvis and myself. Oh, sorry, did I say Elvis? I meant Chris. Sorry. So I'll pass it over to you, Jen, and we'll run through our first clip.
Chimigwech, Don. So as you pointed out, Darren Spence is a member of Martin Falls First Nation, and he sat down with us last week, Don, myself, and Tony McGuire as well. So he was really talking about the proposed roads in Treaty 9, so not just Northern Road Link, but he also has a very proactive approach when it comes to the environmental assessments and building these proposed roads. And with that proactive approach, he also provides some cautions. So we've heard a lot of things about people being concerned about control and access as well as safety issues. And so you heard Leslie Spence from Webequie First Nation in one of our other programs talk about that control and access, and he was particularly concerned about more drugs coming to communities. And so that's something that Darren is also concerned about. So if you can roll that clip and we'll have a quick listen and discuss that.
There are pros and cons, right? There is excitement about the opportunities, as well as the opportunities for organized crime as well. All right, with any community that has a drug problem, they have an organized gang problem, organized crime problem, because the drugs are controlled by organized crime. So that we can definitely say that the opportunity and the attractiveness of an all-season road to that type of group would be very attractive to be able to traffic their drugs and traffic their paraphernalia and contraband to and from a lot easier without to go undetected.
Right. And so last week, we hosted our program, and NAN Grand Chief Anna Betty joined us, and so that was one of her concerns too, was control and access as well as safety. And what are some of the other things, Dawn and Chris, I turn the floor over to you, some of the things that you've heard about in regards to control and access to proposed roads in Treaty 9?
Chris, did you want to go first?
Maybe I can. Maybe I can try and share some insight into that. We look at some communities that are going through that right now. With respect to some of the winter roads, you can look at it this way: when the winter roads are open, there's more opportunity for access and whatnot. So there's still a taste of what that can do. And you look at some of the other flying communities that have recently got TSA approved, not TSSA, whatever the NTSB approved screening at several First Nations in James Bay, and it's making a difference there. And so I think the fight on drugs is going to happen no matter what. But making it easier is obviously a problem. So what do? You keep on fighting that fight, through other means. But is it having gated community when it comes to new roads and new communities? There's all sorts of options that you can do. So it's up to the will of the communities, I think, to keep on fighting that fight.
So, Chris, I just want you to back up for 1 second, though. You used a couple of acronyms. Can you tell us what those are?
So it would be, I can't remember what the name of the folks that do the screening at the airport is. It?
I can't remember the name. I know who you mean. Yeah, it's the screening authority. Yeah.
Okay.
The screening authority. That's right.
Yeah.
And
so they've upped
there's new stations.
Have they upped their? Chris, have they up their security levels then at these airports?
Yes.
They're screening. Oh, interesting.
That's right. Yeah. Even within the Timmins Airport now, when there's flights up to James Bay and so on, you're getting screened, right? And so, but even within the community, there's no alcohol and stuff like that. So if you have alcohol, you have to dispose of it. So I've seen that happen firsthand. So
interesting. I think it's called CATSA. CATSA. I think that's the name, Canadian Aviation Transportation and Safety Association or something like that. That's the name of the organization, but that's good to know, Chris. What I can add to this is this isn't the first time we've heard about a need for security of these kinds of roads. I've been doing these all-season road projects for over 10 years, and this is one of the top issues and concerns about all-season roads, especially obviously those that would ultimately connect with the provincial highway network. And it's simple. The concern is there would be that many more drugs, or that much more drugs and alcohol coming up if it were made easier to get there, right? So I think all along the position of all First Nations that I've dealt with when it comes to all season roads has been that there needs to be some sort of controlled access to the communities through these roads, and the question is, what form would it take? But there would have to be some sort of inspection process or something to make sure that it's not causing more problems than it's solving. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I remember that Grand Chief Anna Betty last week mentioned increasing police presence and possibly rounding out the members, that could be doing patrolling or a combination of security and policing. And, there's a few things that she did talk about last week.
Yeah, and then Chris, go ahead. You were going to say something?
You know what? Yeah, just to that note, that I've heard some communities trying to have gated access that are in rural, that have rural access that think that they should have inspection stations entering their communities. So it's not just new First Nations that are trying to find that battle, right? And so now you have a community that has access that is experiencing what those other communities don't want to happen, right? And so how are they dealing with it? Well, they're talking about having inspection stations on the way in.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah,
So let's go ahead, Don.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, that's where this is. These roads are special. They're not classic MTO roads. Let's be honest. They go through the traditional territories of First Nations, and they're going to have to be treated differently when it comes from an administrative point of view and security point of view.
Mm-hmm. So looking at that, that's one of the cons that's been identified, or one of the more negative aspects of it. But, speaking to Darren Spence, he was really hopeful about the potential benefits for a community, and with those benefits, he's looking beyond just the road. So if you can roll that next clip, that would be fantastic.
The opportunities are endless, right? So I feel that, as a community in Martin Falls, that for me, I would like to see a list of terms where we want our housing crisis to end within 5 years. We want education for our children, for our young people, for generations that are going to be coming behind us. I'd like to see youth centers. Economic development would be massive, right? Have an asset map. When I mean asset map, we're talking about the minerals, we're talking about the biofuels, talking about everything that's within that territory, and to have a matrix or a map of everything, and have an asset, and then able to track that. And what is it that we can use? What can we utilize within our territory?
So those are some pretty important points he was talking about there. So he also talked about being good neighbors in the territory with their cousins and other communities, being good neighbors with government, with corporations and municipalities. And he also noted how much money Indigenous communities spend in Thunder Bay, for instance. And he discussed about the need to increase capacity in communities through a lot of different ways to get ready for the proposed roads and other developments. And so on that note, both of you, what are some of the things or ideas that you guys have heard from community members that we've went and talked to?
I don't know about some of the communities members that talked to, say, in the communities that we're speaking about here, Martin Falls and Webequie, but certainly seeing that transition, like I look at it as for the north you go and access and whatnot, communities go through these monumental changes. And so I've seen the change from, economic development, getting opportunities through mining, through some of the work that communities have done with, the asset map that Darren referenced, and looking at our resources and our cultural assets, and using that to get opportunities in forestry and mining, and then seeing those, the things that we did to help the community prepare for more and more. The guys were, working in the forestry business, and it wasn't the best business to be in at the time. But when mining came, these guys all had transferable skills, and I'm seeing folks go from not having anything, to, at home. And the next, their kids are in hockey, and he has a truck, and because, he was able to prepare for those opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a couple of things there in that last clip there. The first, I mean, the road isn't the solution to a community's issues, and really, Darren was saying that when he's talking about terms, he's talking about terms and conditions associated with the road, other things, right, that need to be accomplished and connected to that road being put in place, and that would be improvements in other infrastructure, whether it's healing centers, or upgrading capacity of a nursing station, or ice rinks, community centers, things like that. Things that provide other benefits to community members other than just a road. So um,
Hmm.
that's I thought that was important. I liked, and this is kind of a separate topic, but I liked, and Chris was talking a bit about it, the comment about taking inventory of the assets of the First Nation, whether they're natural resource assets or, like Chris mentioned, cultural assets, and being aware of those, and know what you have, right? Take that inventory of what you've got, what your community's capabilities are, and use that going forward. So I thought that was a really good clip. Lots of interesting points brought up by Darren.
That's it. And he,
I think I really enjoyed. Sorry, Jen. I just to add to Don's point. I really enjoyed him tying in these community assets to the well being of the community, and then looking at things that now that we have that information, how can we grow and benefit economic development wise, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm looking at it very holistically.
that's it. And that actually goes into the next clip where he talks about increasing capacity in communities. So let's hear that.
So we need to build mechanisms with ourselves, right? The mechanisms where we have boards, we have people that are, people like yourselves, that have those expertise, those advisories, also like people with all kinds that have other different skills as well. Knowledge keepers, medicine keepers, traditional knowledge keepers, as well as like this, we can add on the 7 teachings about finance, teach them about resource development and management, right? We can build on that.
I really love that because his thinking is very well rounded with regards to finances and building all these other things up, but also
Yeah.
remembering to pull ahead the knowledge keepers and elders and adding to the 7 teachers, because how else do we build on our Indigenous knowledge? You know what I mean? And these are some aspects of our lives that are a reality.
Yeah, I thought that was a fantastic quote. Like having finance is one of our 7 teachings, and guided by the 7 teachings, right? And expanding the way that we plan for the future. It was brilliant.
It was
Yeah,
brilliant.
I think
Don?
modernizing the 7 teachings to add in finance and resource development and management it's a brilliant idea. It makes so much sense, and I think it's a great way to move forward. I mean, the idea of the advisory board with that variety of experts like knowledge keepers, medicine keepers, and traditional knowledge keepers. I mean, great idea, right? So you're looking forward, but you're also, remembering your roots, and using those people with those special talents going forward to help set your path for the future. This is a really good, really interesting set of comments there.
That's it, tying everything together as you move forward. But going back to the 7 teachings, wondering what part that some of that fits under, and maybe Chris, you might want to weigh in on that. So I was thinking respect and wisdom for some of the to add to those things, right? You have to be wise when you're
So
making
put it underneath
decisions for the
the
future.
pillars. right? Is that what it is? Yeah, right. So you can probably fit that under several pillars, under
That's
several of the
right.
seven teachings, right? Having a list of all seven and seeing where
Quick, what are the seven
modern
then?
things that we need to learn. Don't do this to me. Don't, don't do this to me, Jen. That's not. Wait, let me get my book. It's here somewhere.
Is this
Not
a game show? Is this
not
like
cool at all.
a
No,
trivia,
it's
like
Like,
just
some sort of a
okay,
can
contest?
I
Is
Chris,
that
can
because
I
what?
get one? Okay, it's not believe, is it? What is it? It's not
no,
believe.
I don't think that's in there, Chris. I think that's from X Files.
He's shaming me.
Did you want to tell us the
But
seven,
yeah,
Jen? Then, since you asked
Yeah,
the
can I just
question,
take
you
uh,
one?
obviously
Or
have the answer. You can show everyone how
bravery,
yeah,
smart you
right.
are.
wisdom,
She just Googled
respect,
it.
kindness,
Yeah, she's reading it.
love,
I know, right?
humility, and I'm missing one.
Oh, there's humility. See, that's right there. You broke one of
Ah,
those rules already.
I did not because I'm admitting I'm forgetting one.
6 for 7, Chris.
Yeah, yeah.
She asked the
I meant
question.
I meant shaming me.
Oh, and truth.
Yeah.
Truth is the seventh one. There we go. Got it.
Okay.
All right, back to our conversation du jour here. Um, so we talked to Leslie Spence in the past from Webequay. Again, I'll just keep saying he's from Webequay, and he talked about the high cost of food in the remote communities. And Darren talked about that as well, and he talked about how hard it is for families to live on limited incomes, and many don't have the choice but to shop at one store in town, which is very, very expensive. And I love that he talked about the need to be holistically healthy. So if you can play that clip.
We need to have healthier families to feed our bellies and to feed our hearts, right? And in our souls.
I know that's a short clip, but I've not heard anybody talk like that when they're talking
Powerful.
about, right? Just short and powerful, straight to the point,
Yeah,
and we want to be healthy in all aspects, right?
absolutely. No, that's just a couple words that gets you right. So because you know what he means, and you see a lot of communities, that when it comes to full bellies eating together all the time when we're going places, it's such a good feeling. And I think things have changed in a lot of communities. I've seen communities that have great programs for feeding kids and stuff like that. So like on the belly side, I think that's hopefully progressing. But I mean on the heart side, there's lots there's lots of work that needs to be done there in our communities, and we're trying.
Yeah, it's a little
Working
bit
on
more
it.
complicated
So,
on the hard side, I would say. And you know,
Yeah,
for a community to move forward, they really need to get healthy, right? That's one of the pillars of success is getting healthy mentally and physically. Um, as well as things like stable leadership and things like that, right? They can help
mhm.
a community move forward.
That is. So we're going to go into our next clip. And so Darren was talking about, there's negatives and positives with road development. We talked a little bit about that in this session. And he listed off a few of the things, including increasing infrastructure, expanding programs and services. So those are pros. And then for him, he said a road has to be by community for community. And right now, in this time and space, things are at a pivotal moment with an upcoming election. So we can play that clip.
The all season road is something where it has to be forest bias for sure. It can't be pushed by any type of government. And I'm not gonna get all political out here, but it's I'm concerned, right? And which political party is gonna get in, and you gotta strategically vote.
So there's a lot in that little clip again. He has some really good things to say, and this is the time to make some very serious decisions in our communities. Not just in Treaty 9, but across the country. So those were clips from our interview with Darren Spence last week, a member of Martin Falls First Nation.
Chris, did you want to comment?
Don, Chris.
I'm thinking, on the political side and how fast things change when it comes to leadership in some communities that when it's maybe unstable in circumstances. I've seen other communities have really strong administration that has policies and direction set out by the community. It comes to when they do community-based strategic planning and stuff like that. And so those communities, I find, don't waver so much with the change of leadership, and having strong administrative systems like he had mentioned earlier, mechanisms and so on to help keep that ship moving at the same direction and pace, whether it may change here and there. However, a change in leadership won't mean a drastic change in community direction.
No, that's right, because our mission pretty much stays the same, right? I think.
Yeah,
and I mean,
pointed out.
And it's a good quote by us for us. I mean, it's 2025 now, and I think governments at all levels have to realize that times are different, and that it's important that community voices are heard and they are equal partners at the table when it comes to these kinds of projects. And I think the more inclusive these projects can be, the better it will be for the country as a whole. I think, to be honest with you, projects will move ahead faster because there's an honest effort by government, different levels of government, to be inclusive. When moving forward with these projects. So, lots of good, as always, with Darren. Lots of real nuggets in there. His words are pretty compact, but he says a lot in a short period of time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you want to try that, Don? Maybe why don't you give that a whirl?
Yeah, I'd like to, Elvis. I really would. I'll see if I can strive to improve myself.
Muster up the strength.
Say more with less. Yes. Well, the lights are bright there when you were a stepper, aren't they, Elvis?
They are bright. I've got some eye issues, and so brightness is not good for this guy. And so please don't chastise.
Well, I think now you've established a new standard, Chris. I think this needs to be part of your. I don't want to say act because it makes it sound like it's your shtick. Yeah, I think moving forward, that's part of your shtick, not your stink. I think that should be. Always have the glasses on. Always have the glasses on, Chris. So that wraps up today's show.
They're never coming off.
So that wraps up today's discussion. Thank you, Chris. And I would like to thank Darren Spence for spending the time to talk with us. And we've got more. We'll have more clips next week. Darren was great with his time, and we definitely want to have him back again. We hope this was helpful, and we hope it encourages you to join us again. Don't forget, everyone, to keep in touch with our project team members via the contact information available on our website, northernroadlink.ca. Miigwech to you, Chris and Jen, for a great conversation. And we'll be going on Wawate Radio next at 2 p.m. for an hour-long radio show. So please join us. Big Witch,
All
and see you
right,
soon.
Jimmy, go
Bring
ahead.
your dancing shoes.
Come up, B.